Michael and Sam have just moved to Santa Carla, California. They're about to discover its secret.
Notice anything unusual about Santa Carla yet?
No. It's a pretty cool place. If you're a Martian.
Or a vampire.
So where are you? The flying nun?
I'm your brother, Sammy. Help me!
Stay back! Stay back!
What's happening to me, Star? Get yourself a good sharp steak. Drive it right through his heart.
You're a vampire, Michael. My own brother, a damn blood-sucking vampire.
Oh, you wait till Mom finds out, buddy.
When a vampire bites it, it's never a pretty sight.
Michael, they're coming! Oh, shit!
Welcome everybody to They Cast from the Coast. My name is Adam Miles and I'm joined as always by Tim Johnson, Josh Lambert, and Aaron Peerless. How you guys doing?
A1, brother.
Tim, you look very 80s vampire-ish tonight.
Yeah. I always feel, well, Tiger King now, but I always felt like fucking Dog the Bounty Hunter.
That's a great looking mullet you got there.
You got some bear mace?
I had to fucking... This is from a cosplay that I did at HalCon last year, of course, David the Vampire. And I wish that I could have gotten a more expensive wig, but it's literally something from Value Village that I spent like the better part of a week and probably $30 on hair product to fucking get like it to look right. And I'm still not happy with it.
With the cost of $30 in hair product and probably like $10 from the wig, you could have just bought like a $50 wig.
Shut up, Josh!
A good point. A nice wig.
Tim is very unimpressed.
He's doing some mental math. He's like, fuck, he's right.
I spent way too much time doing other aspects of this fucking cosplay. Like,
show him the noodles. Show him the
noodles. My noodle box.
Adam looked at Tim's noodle.
At HalCon, he held it.
I did.
Adam held Tim's noodle.
While he went to the bathroom, nonetheless.
Adam held Tim's noodle while Tim was in the bathroom.
All right, fuck off. Moving on.
What are we even talking about tonight?
Well, I think
Tim's noodles.
I think Tim's segue is very good for us. So
it's just a Mr. Noodle and not like a linguine or something or a penne.
And that, kids, is how you do a cold open.
All right.
Cold open.
Yeah, you know what? No.
Speaking about noodles here, man.
You're not going to follow it up with anything? Nope. Okay, fine. Whatever. All right, Tim.
Noodles.
You've already segued us in a little bit, so tell us exactly what we're watching or what we're talking about tonight, and give us the synopsis, please.
The 1987 classic movie done by one of my most hated fucking directors, but this movie was fucking amazing. I'm talking about The Lost Boys. Yeah. Okay, so a mother and her two sons moved to the small coast town in California. The town is plagued by bikers and some mysterious deaths. The young boy makes friends with two other boys who claim to be vampire hunters, while the older boy, David, his name wasn't David, his name was Michael. Fuck. The wig. The wig is fucking with me. The other boy is drawn into a gang of bikers by a beautiful girl named Star. And the older boy starts sleeping throughout the day and staying out all night, while the younger boy starts to get into trouble because of his friend's obsession. This was a horrible fucking synopsis. Horrible. Who the fuck wrote this? This wasn't me. Anyways.
Did it even talk about vampires?
No.
What are they, skirting around it?
I know.
It's a vampire movie.
I love
they
that.
aren't bikers, they're vampires.
And I don't even know if you consider them bikers when they're on like fucking enduros. It's not like they were running around on Harleys or some shit. You know what I mean?
Okay. Hey. Let me do it one more time.
All right.
Let me do it one more
time.
All
right.
Okay.
Backing it up.
Biker with vampire.
Okay. Going back in time.
All right. And that kid's is a cold open.
Yeah. Financial troubles force a recent divorcee and her teenage sons, Michael and Sam, to settle down with her father in the California town of Santa Carla. At first, Sam laughs off the rumors when he hears about vampires who inhabit this small coastal town. But after Michael meets a beautiful girl named Star at an amusement park, he begins to exhibit the classic signs of vampirism. Fearing for his own safety, Sam recruits the two young vampire hunters known as the Frog Brothers to save his brother by finding and destroying the head vampire.
There you go.
Better?
Nicely done. Woo!
Whoever wrote that
fucking redeemed
did a good job.
Oh.
Tim's taking off the wig now.
Means business.
It was, business in the front, party in the back. Now it's just party.
That's a good one, Adam.
All right, so tonight we are talking about The Lost Boys, as Tim stated. So this is the original sparkling vampire movie, by the way, gentlemen.
They didn't fucking sparkle.
They fucking sparkled.
Son of a bitch.
They just weren't assholes and sparkled in the sun. They sparkled.
Well,
I'm not familiar with this fact. I don't remember them sparkling at all.
Oh, you will. Trust me. That's coming up tonight.
I just watched it.
It was just damp in that cave. That's all it was.
Oh, jeez. Okay. Never mind. Okay, so we have the fictitious town of Santa Carla. That the biggest problem is all the fucking vampires. And
goddamn vampires.
All the vampires. So we have the fictitious town of Santa Carla, very much so based on Santa Cruz and the boardwalks and all that stuff. So, as it is. This movie is pure classic 80s trash when you look at it. And I don't mean trash in a bad way. I mean, like, everything in this...
I almost got off. I almost got off the call. I almost hung up and quit the show.
I mean, when you're watching this movie, it's like, it is the epitome of 80s punk trash look and feel. You know what I mean? This is California in the 80s. Everybody's got the fucking metal and the piercings and the leathers and the fucking mohawks.
The saxophone guy.
The saxophone guy is amazing.
Fuck, I love that guy. He was fucking giving it all, man.
Punk sax. You don't see that too often.
That's right. So it's a very simplistic premise. You've got a family that's a mother and two sons that are moving to this town to live with their grandfather after a divorce, and they're basically trying to start their lives in a new town, and they're starting to uncover some shit that's going on in the town, and living with their interestingly weird and oddball grandfather, who's a prime character in this movie. But yeah, so we have kind of two separate storylines that are going on in this movie at first. So we have, because of the difference in age, you have the little brother who's kind of, coming into his own, finding his own friends and learning about vampires as they were, existing in this town, not believing it at first and then kind of coming around to it. And then you've got the older brother who is, being indoctrinated into this quote-unquote biker gang that turns out to be the vampires that the younger brother's being warned about. So you have two kind of separate storylines that are somewhat entwined, at different parts, if that kind of makes sense.
No, not at all.
No, not at all. Okay. Would you describe it better than that, Tim?
Yeah, I did. My second synopsis. The second one.
The second one, not the first one. So I don't get to go back in time. Just you, right?
Just me.
Just you. Okay. And then we actually have an entirely third storyline here where the mother's trying to kind of pick up the pieces after the divorce and trying to find her own life and weigh in things with Santa Carla, and finds a job and is kind of falling for a guy and everything else. So we got different characters that are going on in here.
You gonna talk about the fourth storyline?
What's the fourth storyline, Josh?
Grandpa trying to get in with the Widow Johnson.
The Widow Johnson.
Yeah.
That's the pivotal part of the story.
His taxidermy wasn't that great.
Oh, man. Yeah,
Those
no.
were scary.
But he did admit to getting lucky.
Right, yeah. Yeah. If my grandpa
Complete story arc. He got there.
If my grandfather tried to give me dead animals all the time, I don't know. Weird.
Best part was he ends up with a whole friggin' closet full of them at one point. Really wish he'd stop giving them to me. And he's like filling his damn closet with them. It's great.
Yeah. Ugh.
Oh, man. Okay, so let's jump right into talking about the characters here for a minute. So
Okay, let's do it.
Let's do that, shall we? So we have the infamous Corey Haim playing Sam, the young brother here. So
What a bitch.
What? Please explain yourself.
What a little bitch. How old is this kid in the movie?
Do you remember when he went to go get fucking comic books?
Yeah.
And that fucking jacket he was wearing?
Yeah.
The fucking
the fashion victim jacket?
The tie-dyed fucking trench coat thing?
Fucking goof.
The collar popped and shit?
So the kid's what, like 14 years old, you think, in the movie?
Looks like he should be in a
maybe a
Vanilla
little
Ice
younger?
music
Maybe
video.
a little younger. He was still taking baths.
The kid's taking bubble baths. He's scared of the monster closet.
What's wrong with bubble baths?
Oh, fuck.
Ah, fuck.
We're going to have a talk, Adam.
Beard so fluffy.
That's how I keep it so coiffed. It's all about the Mr. Bubble. Oh, man.
I don't know. I think he's a bit of a pansy.
Well, it's interesting because when you read up on this movie, even though it's not openly stated in this movie, it's been noted many times before that this character was written as if he was gay. And now, if you pick up on, you can pick up on a lot of what's being said about him. He's got sexy boy pictures on his wall. He dresses a certain effeminate way. He's scared of a lot of things, like a little bit effeminate in the way that he acts. You know what I mean? There's telltale signs that they're saying that the way that the character was originally written was that he was supposed to be openly gay, but they changed it in the movie, and he's not. It's just the signs of the writing are still there.
It's funny too, because if we go by how old he was when he filmed it,
yeah,
he was like fucking 16 years old.
Yeah,
when he filmed that movie.
The character is obviously much younger. Because I see Michael Moore as like a 16, 17.
That's true.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
I can't. For some reason, I can't. Whenever I look at Michael, I'm thinking like 18, 19. Watch that movie. I don't know why.
He's still in school.
Right.
Because his mother talks about him going back to school. And he's not in his final year. So that would place him at 17, I think.
Right. Yeah.
And when he filmed it, he was 23.
Yeah. That wasn't the norm in the 80s, though.
No, it was. And I mean, he looked 17.
Sure.
He looked like a teenager. And obviously Corey Haim was a teenager, but he did look younger.
Yeah.
Yep.
I've never heard this alternate script where he was
neither do I. It almost sounds made up.
Yeah, it almost sounds made up, doesn't it?
Almost.
but it's not necessarily an alternate script. It's how it was written and how it was supposed to be and originally written and stuff. So, but like I said, the telltale signs are there apparently in the way that the movie was filmed and everything else. So I mean, take it for what you want. But he does come across in certain ways where it's kind of like he's
just seemed coddled to me, like he was a bitch. Like I didn't think he was effeminate. He was just coddled, scared of the boogeyman still. And
well, there's that too, because the mother never really takes, like, when he talks about, you know, being scared about a comic book and he wants to sleep in her room that night, she's not like, go back to your own room. She's like, okay. It's like, how often does he just kind of curl into mom's bed scared for the night?
No wonder she got divorced.
He was in bed every night. Yep. Okay, so then we have Michael, the older brother, who was the epitome of older brothers in the 80s, I want to say. Like, he's the, you know, he's got the earring going at one point. He's got the look, and he's the, I don't want to say he's the tough guy, but he's trying to fit in. He's having a hard time.
That guy's distributed some noogies in his day.
This guy has distributed noogies in his day. Are you talking the character?
Well, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Bit of a bully, you think?
Well, just towards his younger brother.
Oh, definitely.
I mean, you can say that, but I mean, sibling bullshit like that happens no matter what. But it really does come out in this movie that he does have a love for his brother. Like, he's,
of course.
You know, maybe it's just, you know, the whole I need fucking help, so we need to stick together, and it's all for his own personal gain at that point. But he does, in my opinion, he always did come across as somebody who really did care about his brother.
Definitely.
Maybe the noogies are just a brother.
What
was that, Aaron?
I got that vibe, but at the same time, I see, you know, Michael, he could be, you know, it could have been, we don't know the dynamic that happened where they moved from, right, or anything like that. So he could have been the, you know, the bully, or, you know, in a pocket of people, because he doesn't really seem like he comes across as a bully, but he could have been, you know, indirectly, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really see him as a bully as much as just an older brother. Like, the dynamic between Michael and Sam definitely shows that there's tension there. Because the first thing he's about to do as soon as he finds out the vampire is, I'm telling Mom.
Right.
You're a blood-sucking freak. I'm telling Mom. And then we go on to Mom, Diane Wiest, who plays Lucy.
Yeah.
She's adorable.
She's
adorable.
She is the absolute mom character.
She's adorable.
Well, and I mean, this was heyday for her too, because this was around the time of what, Edward Scissorhands.
That's what I always think of when I see her.
Yep. She was great in Edward Scissorhands. So this was yet another movie that she was, you know, fantastic in. And not too long after that, one of my other favorite movies with her in it came out, The Birdcage, which is a fantastic comedy movie with Robin Williams in it. So she's, you don't really see anything of her anymore, which is interesting, but she's
still alive?
Apparently.
Is she dead? Adam, you insensitive bastard.
She is still alive. She is not dead. She actually has movies in post-production right now.
Oh.
Yeah, but she hasn't really done much, I guess.
Maybe she's been
I'm looking at her IMDb, man. She's been busy in fucking TV and stuff.
Nothing that I watch.
All through the fucking 2000s.
Just nothing that I watch, apparently, so we'll go with that.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, so Lucy, who becomes the love interest, we'll say, if we want to say it that way, she becomes the love interest of Max, Edward Herrmann, who was you know, a character that was around quite a bit in the 80s. But once again, he actually did pass on. Edward Herrmann, he passed on a couple years ago, but that's why we don't hear from him anymore. So we have Max, the owner of the store where Lucy gets a job. So Max owns the video store.
Again, another role I wish was played by John Lithgow.
Or Gary Busey.
Or Gary Busey.
Oh my God, Gary Busey's the head vampire?
Right?
Oh, totally.
Wow.
Yeah.
Fuck. I can't even.
Oh, they
I
wanted
just
something-
want every movie to have Gary Busey and John Lithgow in it.
John Lithgow. He's tall.
Yeah.
He would have been good.
I can't even. I'm not even gonna fucking go there. Gary Busey, whatever.
I don't know why you hate this man. He's a national treasure. But anyways,
You're really fucking pushing it there, aren't you, Josh? National treasure.
let's talk about the people we really want to talk about.
All right.
Tim, the vampires.
Yes. Fucking
only reason we
Kiefer
watched it.
Sutherland as fucking David. One of the greatest portrayals of an angsty teen vampire ever. Ever.
One of the greatest portrayals of an angsty teen vampire ever.
Yeah.
One of, not the, just one of.
There's 3 other vampires in this movie, bud. Part of his crew.
Yep.
That's true.
And they were all angsty teen. What?
Ted of Bill and Ted.
Yeah.
Alex
Fucking
Winter.
Alex Winter.
Yep. The best part was this was Kiefer Sutherland at a high point too for me, because he was fresh off of Stand By Me, which he played a great character as the older brother that was, you know, a pissed off, you know, back in the 50s or whatever, you know, teenager that would basically cut you with a knife if he had the fucking chance.
Yep.
You
Him
know?
and Corey Feldman must have jumped on the same bus.
Yep.
And by me, right?
Yep, absolutely. So we have the epitome of 80s vampires in this movie. They are metal looking, they are thrashing metal, they got the leathers, they've got the spikes, they've got the earrings, and the hair, the fucking 80s hair. Tim already adorned the 80s hair for us earlier, and it was beautiful.
It has a mind of its own.
It has a mind of its own.
That's a wonderful piece of art.
It's like that Simpsons episode on Treehouse of Horror, the evil hair.
Yeah.
Oh man. So yeah, the vampires. It was Kiefer Sutherland, Alex Winter. The female star was Jamie Gertz, and what was the other one? I can't remember the name of the other one to be honest. I can't remember.
Paul and Dwayne.
Okay, there you go.
Played by
So-
people I don't know.
Played by people. we
And
don't
then
know.
there's the kid.
Laddie.
Yeah, little kid.
Laddie. So these characters, they were all good. They had a very good dynamic as the actual crew, so they played really well off of each other, in my opinion. The whole kinship was there, and I actually kind of felt it with these characters. They all kind of had the same look and feel to the way that they were being portrayed, and they really did kind of play as a pack.
Yep.
Really well. They were individual looking enough, but there was a distinct leader.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, they regardless if we didn't know who the other character actors were, they I got to give them some credit. They did really well as the vampires in this, and especially because the vampires go through some really decent stages in this. They go from the as Tim would say, angsty teenagers, to the absolute bloodthirsty, rip you apart asshole characters that they turn to be when they hit the bonfire scene.
Oh my God, that bonfire scene. Apparently, I'll give a little bit of trivia right now, but I guess what we saw is a fraction of what that scene was supposed to be and what they actually filmed.
Nice.
Yeah, like there was one guy. One of the special effects was a head, and it literally was made of fucking like angel food cake. And when Kiefer Sutherland bit into it, it was all like pink and visceral and all that, and it didn't get past the censors. But if you pause it right before he's about to like bite, like that head is made of cake, and like he destroys it. And I was like, and I guess they all did shit like that. I guess it was like, it was fucking like really, really graphic.
Someday, I hope they upload all this footage that never get used in movies, and they store it on some secure server somewhere, and it just gets leaked.
Yeah.
And then it's everywhere. There's so many amazing deleted scenes that are on film somewhere, and we never get to see it.
Yeah.
Well,
so
and
much stuff gets cut.
And it was great too, because, and we talked about this kind of stuff before, that in the heyday when DVDs started to come out, the extras on DVDs were like a selling point for buying the movie.
Yeah, you would
beyond.
get like every fucking deleted scene, and then you would get like interviews with every single person that had anything to do with the movie in it, and like, yeah, there'd always be a documentary, and yeah.
Nowadays, you don't get any fucking content on a DVD.
No, you don't. But I mean, back in the day when we would talk about infamous shit like this that would just never be seen, you wait and the DVD would come out, the re-release DVD would come out, and somebody would have found something and get like the infamous Army of Darkness alternate ending.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's funny. Evil Dead is my example I always use for a lot of things, but one of it is this extra content on DVDs. So I own like over 100 copies of The Evil Dead, but almost every fucking one has different features on it. There's like 30 or 40 different commentaries by Rob Tappert, by Sam Raimi, by Ted Raimi, by Bruce Campbell, by the ladies of The Evil Dead. There's commentary tracks that are released on like each fucking regional DVD. So you get a DVD that was released in Ireland, and this has an exclusive commentary track by Rob Tappert, who was in charge of like a lot of the effects and stuff. So it's insane that all this content is out and it's never been compiled into one spot. Like, there's no ultimate Evil Dead collection that just has everything. There's a lot that claim to be like the ultimate and they have a shitload, but there's always one or two featurettes that are always on one of the other discs that no one else has.
You gotta imagine that. Why wouldn't they just put out one disc with not saying that that's what I like, because I love collecting all the other stuff too, but you would think that they'd save a ton of cash if they just put out one copy of the exact same thing across the whole shooting match and then started releasing. I mean, you can imagine somebody sitting there all, going through all this, film and stuff and filling it back in and being like, okay, I think this one's cool to release as this for Ireland. Right?
Yeah.
Like, it's a cult classic, and it's one of the best. And, it's just weird that that's what they do sometimes, right?
Very.
And I love it for collecting purposes, as you probably do too. Yeah, it's hard on the bank sometimes, but I mean, look at your board game up there, right?
Right.
Yeah. When you're a diehard man, you're a diehard. You're gonna buy all of them. So
you're not as diehard as Tim, though. I mean, he made his own iPad cover.
That's true. It looks eerily familiar to the Book of the Dead.
I knew it was within reach.
Whoa. This is a non-denominational book of non-denominational nature. We do not want to get sued.
Non-denominational.
Book of the Dead.
Book of the non-living.
Book of the
Book of the Evil Dead.
Deceased.
Book of the recently deceased.
Somehow is worse.
I know. That's why I said it. But does that not get the point across? Exactly what this is? Book of the Evil Dead.
Evil Book of the Dead.
Anyways,
on that, by the way, there, Tim. Good job.
Thanks, man. Thanks.
Excellent job.
Thanks.
First
time.
First time sculpting. Got there.
Yeah.
Damn.
Sculpting.
Really picking up on what Adam's telling you there.
All YouTube videos.
Oh, wait.
Tutorials.
Self-taught and everything.
Yeah.
Oh, it doesn't even give Adam the credit
No,
for
fuck
teaching.
Adam.
Here comes up.
Love it.
Moving
What's
the
that?
fuck on.
Moving on. What are we talking about? Vampires.
Vampires. Not the Evil Dead, by the way. This is a different episode. So,
Right?
Its way in.
always creeps its way in there somehow.
You're not
All right, so let's talk about. We were just kind of talking about the effects. Let's talk a little bit more about the effects in this, because I brought up something earlier that you guys are fucking shooting down, but it's true. These fucking vampires glittered.
Yeah,
They
I know
glittered.
they did. I was just teasing you.
littered?
They
No,
glittered.
there's glitter. Yeah, it
Glitter.
was the glitter was in their blood.
Yeah, there was
know,
a
I know.
little bit of glitter on their faces, just a little bit, to bring out certain lights in like the darker scenes. But when Alex Winter gets stabbed, the fucking blood that's pouring out, it's full of glitters. It just shines everywhere. It was ridiculously fun.
Huh. I don't think my eyes can get any more squintier.
You were watching it
it's
on
true.
VHS.
It's absolutely true.
Yeah.
He's not just making this up.
Huh.
See?
Click. No.
Sometimes I tell the truth.
I don't doubt it. I'm just saying I didn't see it.
Yeah, but Adam, I have to make a point. Yes, there's glitter involved with these vampires, but they are not glittery vampires.
Yeah, that has an awful bad connotation.
Okay? You say that again, and I'll smack you in your fucking whore mouth. This movie is a
I
fucking
can assure
treasure.
you, when you watch it on the wholesome nature of video cassette, you will not see any glitter.
Because it's so low resolution, nobody really
Accurate.
fucking sees anything.
You got 2 VHSs of those?
Well, this is the Warner Brothers greatest hits.
What's the difference? Just that
Nothing. It's got a blue band at the top.
Yeah, that's the greatest hits, and this is the original.
Give me one.
That Malibu Stacy has a new hat.
I want it. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Smithers?
Simpsons, classic.
Classic shit.
Anyways, yeah.
All right, so they have the scene, which has been infamously stated, like Tim said, that there was an extreme version of it that will probably never see the light of day, unfortunately. But the big thing with this movie is that it never actually required a lot of blood and guts to be an effective movie.
No.
Correct.
Even showing the vampires flying around, it's just a fucking camera on a wire. Like,
yeah,
it didn't have to, and you're filming the reactions, right? Like,
but
that
I
almost
like
made
that.
it better.
That's the Ramy Cam style.
Yeah.
With like the spook going through the forest.
Practical effects too. Practical.
Yeah.
No VFX. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yep.
We never really get to see the vampires like in a bat mode or anything. Do they just float? Because we see it when they're like fighting a little bit.
At the end, yeah.
But do you think when they're flying over the city they just look like that, or do they like transform into bats? Or
I just assumed that they would just be flying, because I mean, the initial concept of this movie was supposed to be a horror version of Peter Pan.
Oh.
Yeah, The Lost Boys.
The Lost Boys,
Okay.
right? And
Makes
they're
sense.
basically saying that Peter Pan was the head vampire, right? And like all
there's
the
a joke in here, something about Netherland Ranch and Corey Helms, but I don't know.
Oh man, bad, Josh, bad.
Bad.
I will say that the prosthetic effects in this were really good. It was really good. Some of the close-ups and everything, but it should be for when you have a crew that involves V. Neal. I mean, you know, totally. She did a wonderful job on so many good movies, right?
Yeah, I mean, but she did Edward Scissorhands too, didn't she? Like she was off of that because she was a big Tim Burton collaborator.
Yeah.
On a lot of that stuff, so she would have come off and did this one too. So this movie, when it comes to the effects work, this is like the first time that we really see vampires as they would later on when they change. Kind of like this kind of set the bar for how a lot of things like Buffy and a whole other shows where they basically did the vampire brow.
Yeah. Yep. I do consider this the modern day, like I call this the Buffy vampire. When I see this vampire in a movie, I say, okay, this is the Buffy vampire, made famous by Buffy, but created by Lost Boys.
Lost Boys.
And it's just subtle enough that it's good effects work without looking like a Nosferatu or like a Salem's Lot type deal.
Well, the thing that I really appreciate about the vampire makeup in this is that, like you just said, like it's not a lot, like it's just enough to look off-putting and not human looking, but still enough that the actor can fucking emote through it, right? Like they can, like, I mean, come on, Kiefer Sutherland, that single tear coming down his eye after he gets burnt, like that's badass. Even though he's like the tear, it was badass. Like I fucking loved it, and like. Even I found the contact lenses that they used because it's 87. They were probably still glass.
Yeah,
they were great.
Yeah, Aaron, looking at the effects work that they did, the simplistic vampire.
I love it. I mean, you'd be able to come in and your makeup team. Obviously, you're doing a few vampires, and they probably shoot them all. Kind of maybe they would shoot them all together, just because they had scenes all together. But they could break them up if there was only two in one scene or whatever too. But this is an '80s film, man. This is rocking. Like this is absolutely back in the '80s. This is great fucking movie. I love these movies. Prosthetics are A1. I think they did a really good job blending them out, sculpting them. They look flawless, right? There's a couple things that I picked out here and there, but I mean, if it's just somebody watching a vampire flick, I'd never pick up on anything like that, right? So, but yeah, it's overall, even as it progressed and got to the end where the big battle happens in the house and everything like that, and there's a couple other really good makeups, and it's like they progress a little bit with the makeup, so maybe they had time and they had enough in the budget to do that, right? To show them progressing and being burned up in the tub with the garlic and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, so it's like they do a well-rounded job balancing the budget for the effects throughout the whole thing. That's the way that I looked at that film.
Yeah,
I loved it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So before we continue, Adam,
soundtrack was good too.
The soundtrack was fucking amazing.
Yeah.
But Adam, I'm going to blame you for this because if I was a fan of the Lost Boys watching this episode, we didn't talk about the fucking Frog Brothers.
Oh, gee.
We skipped right over them, and they're like one of the best parts of this movie. And yeah, Adam's like, yeah, let's talk about the mom. We didn't even talk about the grandfather, really.
Nobody really stopped me back then, so okay, let's jump back.
Yeah. This is about going back and fixing things.
Okay, just like
that's the trend.
Just like Tim. That's the
trend.
That's the trend that Tim started. Okay, going back.
Frog Brothers.
Frog Brothers.
Yeah, Edgar and Alan Frog.
The better of the two Corys.
Yeah. So we have Corey Feldman, obviously, and Alan Frog, Jameson Newlander. Best known, obviously, for playing Alan Frog, but he was in like the remake of The Blob. He also played Alan Frog later on in Lost Boys to Thirst. And he played the mayor in Bone Tomahawk.
Yep.
I don't know what that is, but...
Bone Tomahawk? You don't know what that movie is?
No.
What?
Josh.
It's a fucking Kurt Russell fucking
Western
horror movie. It's fucking dope, and it's violent as fuck. I loved it. It's so good.
It's one of those movies that
popping out of my head right now.
I feel like every episode you guys could just make up a movie and describe it to me.
We make up a movie and describe it. What do you mean you've never seen this movie? Random fucking movie insert here. But then again, that's the beauty of the show, because half the fucking shit that we talk about Josh has just never seen anyway. This being obviously not one of those situations, because who the fuck really hasn't seen it?
You've seen it, Eric. Yes?
Yeah, I have. Yeah, I saw it a long time ago when it first came out. But as soon as you said Kurt Russell, it instantly came back, like in caves and stuff, right?
Yeah.
In there.
The fucking wishboning.
Whistles. Oh.
Yeah, it was really good actually.
Yeah, the wishboning effect always got to people.
Anyways, we're talking about Lost Boys. I'm sorry,
Lost Boys. So Edgar. All right. So yes, we have the Frog Brothers. So.
Did you get their name?
Edgar and Alan Frog.
Alan.
Yes, Edgar Allan Poe.
Oh.
Yeah, see the little reference there, little nod, tip of the hat, wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
Edgar Allan Frog. Yeah. Okay. So yes, the Frog Brothers, who I remember watching this movie going, these kids have a badass life because they own a fucking comic shop.
But secretly are vampire hunters.
They're vampire hunters, yeah.
Question on that. When I remember watching this as a child, I used to think the Frog Brothers were vampire hunters, and they were badass. We're watching this as an adult. I don't think they are. I think they just kind of get lucky, because they don't really know all the rules.
Talk the talk.
Yeah.
You know, they've got their hints at shit, but it's like one of those things where it's kind of like, we'll talk the talk and, oh fuck, this is real.
Yeah.
Well, I took it as like, watching it recently, obviously for the show. I watch this movie every year, but it's almost like they're like conspiracy theorists,
right?
Like tinfoil hat guys,
nut jobs,
and they believe it. But then all of a sudden, like, it's legit. Like, they had their theories of why kids were going missing and people are dying and all that, but, yeah.
Because they also thought that the mayor was a werewolf, didn't they say?
Yeah.
There was a werewolf.
I want to know how these two fucking kids have a comic book store.
Well, their parents have it.
Yeah, their parents have it, and they're
There's this
actually
scene where their parents are like hippies and they're like passed out in the background. Stone.
Yeah, right.
laid up against the TV or whatever.
Yeah.
And they're actually credited in the movie as Frog Mother, Frog Father. Like, you know,
Father.
not even like with names or anything. It's just Frog Mother, Frog Father. Yeah, they're just passed out. So yeah, so they're basically just running the store while mom and dad are stoned out of their tree, sleeping against the TV behind the counter.
Yeah.
I don't think I'd want to live in Santa Clara. Vampires removed. It just seems like a noisy, dangerous town to live in. There's all these punks around with their spiky collars and their saxophones.
Their fucking motorcycles.
People stealing comics out of the carts in front of the stores.
This doesn't seem like a good town.
I don't know. I kind of there was some appeal there to me. Maybe just to be somewhere warm by an ocean. I don't know.
Free live saxophone playing every night. It's great.
Oh, that one part where he's like so into it and he's thrusting in the air. I love that guy, saxophone guy.
Yeah.
And thanks to the wonders of the internet, he's become like re-popular. Like he's become re-famous, and he's been like doing like concerts again.
What?
Oh yes, man, it's hilarious. He's been like touring and shit. It's like the saxophone guy from Lost Boys. It's hilarious.
Well, he was in Tina Turner's band.
Oh, was he really?
Yeah, because I remember when Tina Turner came to Halifax a long time ago in the 80s, my dad took my mom to the concert because she was a big Tina Turner fan, and he's like, they started doing the fucking theme song from Mad Max Beyond the Thunderdome, and it's like the saxophone guy was there. And then he was there for the rest of the concert just fucking doing the saxophone. I was like, you saw the saxophone guy from Lost Boys? It's amazing. Yeah.
Nice.
Oh,
Nice.
come on.
Robert Englund here, a.k.a. Freddy Krueger. I'm watching and listening. They cast from the coast. You better or else.
That's great. Yeah, okay, so Tim Capella, saxophone guy. We got the Frog Brothers. And fine, grandfather.
Yeah, we don't really have to talk about him. No, the grandfather was great. He wasn't really like he was a main character without being a main character.
He's a good
You know
comic
what I mean?
relief.
Like obviously it was his house, and he was Lucy's dad, right? He had a fascination with fucking the widow Johnson and fucking doing taxidermy. My favorite scene though was the fucking Windex as fucking cologne.
I was just gonna say that. I was just gonna say, what about the Windex, the cologne?
Windex. Every time I'm cleaning glass, I always think of that. Like that's what he wore as cologne. But anyways, it's just funny because like at the end, you think that he's completely oblivious, but he's probably been living there his whole life, and like they're like. He wasn't even fazed by the end result of the big vampire fight in his house. You know what I mean? And just that one quote as he's going to get a drink of milk,
And that is probably my favorite horror quote. It may be even better than Groovy or one of the Evil Dead one-liners.
Oh.
Just that perfect setup. And he's like, yeah, the only thing that I hate about living in Santa Clara is all the goddamn vampires.
But the best part is that it was a perfect way to end the movie because the look on their faces as the door to the fridge is closing and it just kind of goes black over their faces and they're all standing there like,
stuff Oreos
the
and a root beer.
fuck? Yeah. Like this shit ain't phasing him.
Goddamn vampires.
Goddamn vampires.
But it was hilarious. Fucking Carol Baskin. But it was just hilarious with him too because he had such weird situations. Like, yeah, he was big on the Widow Johnson. He's, you know, big into taxidermy. I love his affection for the car.
Yep.
Let's go into town. Start up the car, let it warm up for a minute. All right, let's get out. That's as close to town as I'm ever getting in this thing.
Yeah. But then later on in the movie, they fucking steal it, and he doesn't
Right?
even do anything.
He's just like, oh.
Or up with gas.
Yep. All right. Josh, do you have
Yeah.
notes for us?
I do have notes. Now, this obviously isn't a first viewing for me. I've seen this movie many, many times. But so this viewing in particular took place April 13th, 2020 at 5:52 p.m. The Lost Boys. Love the soundtrack for this film, is the first note.
Yeah.
Next is a question I posed to you guys. Do you reckon the cops know about the vampires?
There's probably cop vampires.
You think? Do you think like the town as a whole knows that there's just vampires, like the grandpa does?
But see, the thing is the way that I took it was there was only one coven or group of them, and it was obviously fucking what was his name? Fucking
Max?
Max, yeah. Max was the leader, and then you had like David and then all his groups, and then that was it. Like that's
But I mean, according to the grandfather at the end, it's all the goddamn vampires.
Yeah.
Plus,
Yeah.
I mean,
I think
they're talking about death rates, that it's the highest death rate in the country, and we see like 3 people that went missing.
right per capita or something. Yeah.
I do like the grandfather's other quote where he said that if all the people that were dead here stood up, we'd have a big population problem.
Yeah.
So, you know, that just kind of compounds the fact that people are dying very heavily here. And
well, I mean, you think you got this group of 4, and then you got Star and the little guy, and then you got Max, and they're eating multiple people a night.
Yep. True.
They're not
Just food
turning
for thought.
people. Yeah.
Food for thought. I saw the cops and they kind of gave them side eyes at the vampires. I was like, I wonder if they know. And they just have some sort of cop deal with the vampires. They
Cop
just don't
deal?
fuck with. Next note was Bato-Vision. I love the Rami cam. I always think of Edward Scissorhands when I see her. That'd be the mom. I wrote in quotations, when it's strange, with little music notes. Did I mention I love the soundtrack for this film?
yeah, I love the Doors.
Texas Chainsaw reference.
Even though the
Thumbs
Doors
up.
didn't sing the version that's in the movie.
No.
Wow, I totally went like fucking Rain Man on you there. Did you notice that? I totally went like I just threw out a fucking
Trivia time with Tim!
I'm glad that was fucking on camera. Alright, go, sorry.
Read the TV guide. You don't need a TV. Quote. I love the grandpa. I said, the punk scene is really big in this town. The Fabio-looking fella better not get too close to the flaming barrel with all that oil on his chest. I think that was the saxophone guy.
That was Tim Capella.
He was pretty oiled up, and he was right next to this flaming barrel. I was a little worried for him. I wrote, the head vampire runs a VHS rental store. The Frog Brothers in the flesh, the best vampire hunters in town. The town is one big orgy. Always loved the Rami Cam style bat vision. The grandpa trolls again. That's as close to town as I'd like to get. I wrote, man, David was the epitome of cool when I was a child.
But he's not now.
Well, I mean, he's got a mullet.
It's fucking awesome though.
Such a badass hangout. How could 1 billion Chinese people be wrong? Quote. So they can fly, they're hella strong, and can pull the roof off of a car, and they can use Jedi mind tricks to make you see illusions. Why don't we see more of these powers in the movie? That bottle is so cool. Why doesn't Tim have one? Yeah.
Because I could not find an accurate photo Like there's I could use like stills from the movie and stuff, but yeah, I was gonna make one.
Disappointed.
But I made that instead. Come on, that's accurate.
That's pretty
There
cool.
you go.
I made that instead.
I will jump in here real quick. One thing that I love about the powers, like where he's the maggots and the worms and everything else. One of my favorite scenes from a later movie had to do with recreating that. What we do in the shadows.
Yeah. The spaghetti.
The Paschetti. It's amazing. It's amazing. But yeah, go ahead.
How's your worm?
Again, I'm pretty convinced you just make up movies.
Oh!
I'm not even gonna say it.
Go ahead.
Fuck. Can we just take in for a moment the epitome of this? Okay, sorry. Can we just take in for a moment? This is the epitome of your friends asking if you jump off a bridge, would you jump too? What the fuck is freebasing?
Freebasing?
One of them says something about freebasing. I think it was Sam, and he just starts talking about freebasing, and I have no idea what freebasing is.
It's something to do with drugs. I thought it had something to do with drugs.
Is it?
Yeah.
Hey, Google freebasing for me. Plot hole. Grandpa is going to be home all day. Couldn't he just watch him instead of Michael? Oh, never mind. Grandpa has a hot date with the widow Johnson.
Freebasing, the act of smoking a drug. Freebase.
Oh,
Drugs
okay.
are usually converted to a water-soluble something. Yeah, freebasing
I guess
cocaine
we're all
would be like
fucking
smoking
narcs
it.
that don't know. Man, Sam is kind of a wiener. He's scared of the closet monster. He takes bubble baths and doesn't like horror comics.
And sings in the bathtub.
Sings in the bathtub.
Oh yeah, that's right. He even said I don't like horror comics.
Yeah.
Fuck you, Sam.
Right? The reflection dissipates as he turns. Really cool effect, and establishes some of the rules. Kill the head vampire, and all half vampires are saved. Hashtag the rules. Always like the subtle vampire effects. The Buffy vampire.
Yep.
You'll never grow old, and you'll never die. That sounds like a pretty good deal to me. Would you guys take the deal? Would you
Fuck
be
yeah.
vampires? I would.
I would.
Totally.
Yeah?
Yep. Totally would.
How come Star was able to enter without an invite? Is it because she's only a half vampire?
I would think so.
Is that one of the rules?
I don't know. See, this is where I establish the rules, and then the rules get broken, and I had to try and justify it to myself.
Maybe because Michael's there, and he lives there.
Did Michael invite her in? No.
Yeah, but I don't think that rule would apply if he already lives there and he's a vampire.
And I don't think maybe these vampires don't necessarily need to be invited in. I think the vampires can just come and go as they please, but if you invite the vampire
But Max needed to be invited in. Remember?
No, he didn't.
I thought he did.
But if you invite them in, you're powerless.
Yeah, that's one of the things
that
that's one of the things that they talk about when you read about the different things for vampires, like the rules and stuff like this, right? One of the things that people believe they established in this movie was that it's not necessarily that they have to be invited in, but if you invite them in, certain things no longer apply to them. Right. And you're basically powerless against them, but they could come and go as they wish to, but you know, they don't have certain abilities, you know what I mean? Like, you know, it's weird.
Anyways.
Yeah.
They just killed Ted of Bill and Ted. Lots of vampire juices, which apparently sparkled, but I didn't notice.
VHS.
Yep. You know the rules about filling up the tank of gas when you take it out. Well, you do now. Gold. I said, Jesus, who has a 50-pound of garlic on deck? 50-pound bag of garlic. Did you see how much garlic that guy had when he's smashing it up, putting it in the bathtub?
Yeah.
That's like probably $600 worth of garlic.
Easily.
Always loved the water guns full of holy water. I always thought, like, why didn't they just do this in other horror movies? Just get, like, super soakers full of holy water. Get a priest out there blessing your super soakers.
Fucking Windex bottle.
Right?
Windex has water in it. Bless the Windex.
Right? Did the vamps just come to town Doesn't seem like there's very many. So do you think they just like rolled in? They haven't been there very long, or do you think they've been there a long time?
I think they've been there for a long time.
It just seems strange that there's not very many recruits. They
Some of
just
them
got
probably
Star,
get
this
killed
little kid.
off.
No, that's true. Because
Most of them would get eaten, I would think.
if they've been there for 300 years or 200 years or something,
Yeah.
you think that they'd make a few more to have some in their army.
Looks to me almost like some of them might have moved on to other things too, right? Like I'm not saying that they would all be there.
True. The bat feet look gross. I don't think they actually transform when they fly. Garlic doesn't work, so the Frog Brothers don't really know. I think they're just kind of pulling it out of their ass and having good luck sometimes.
Winging it.
Yep. Love a good head explosion. Quote, death by stereo. Antlers aren't really wood, but they still work to kill David. Now,
Which
Adam
is
had an interesting fact
dumb.
that I guess technically he was written not to die, which kind of makes sense to me because antlers aren't wood, and you need a wooden stake to kill a vampire.
All pertains to the sequel that they had actually planned, where David actually survived.
Should have to write something about the lore of that in, because it would be way harder to get a bone to stab somebody with than a tree branch.
Definitely.
You know, like that should give him extra points.
I wish that John Lithgow was Max in this movie.
Or Gary Busey.
I didn't write Gary Busey, no, but I thought it. Imagine being the mom at this point. You come home and realize your kids have been in mortal danger this entire time. And then, one thing about living in Santa Clara, I never could stomach all the goddamn vampires. Best line in the film and possibly in horror history. And then I just wrote, when you're strange, music signs. Again, such a great soundtrack.
Yep. The best part about the delivery of that line by the grandfather is that it's matter-of-factly.
Yep. Yep.
As he goes to get his Oreos and root beer.
Tim?
Yeah,
Yes.
Cry Little Sister, I gotta throw that out there.
Cry Little Sister.
Cry Little Sister, that was one of the, oh man, that was fantastic. When that song kicked in, it's just perfect. Perfect editing, I think, right there. Yeah.
Tim?
Yes?
Do you have some trivia for us?
I thought you would never ask.
Trivia time with Tim!
But I did know that you were going to ask. You know what? I'm going to set some fucking...
Cry, little sister.
some multi-lights flashing. Okay, so this was Corey Haim and Corey Feldman's first film together, which marked the start of a popular 80s trend, the two Coreys.
The debut of the two Coreys.
Yep. This movie was filmed only in 3 weeks.
It's impressive.
In a documentary, Blood-Sucking Cinema, from 2007, Corey Haim said that all the blood had glitter in it to give it a shimmering effect, and it was slimier than any other fake blood.
Nice.
Joel Schumacher hated the idea and told producers that he would only sign on if he could change them to teenagers because he thought it'd be much sexier and more interesting. Okay.
That's why they used glitter.
Sexy?
No,
Sexy.
Joel Schumacher, man.
Joel Schumacher.
I'm serious.
I'm surprised they just didn't have their nipples showing the whole time too, right?
I don't mean to wander off course. I don't mean to interrupt here, but man, when you see the first two Batmans, they're fantastic. They're dark, the whole thing, and then you go into the third one. Batman is Batman Forever, right?
Yeah.
And Forever, and then like everything's bright and you got colors like I got going on above me here right now. Like everything's glowing and bright colors and the whole thing, right? So that's why there's glitter in the blood. He wanted to add color.
Yes.
I don't know. Just a wild guess. Don't you guys agree at all?
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, and the thing is, when Batman and Robin had the nipples on their suits, everybody shit on it, but apparently, it was the costume designer's decision because he wanted to invoke Roman armor, and Roman armor had the nipples on it.
Right.
Like, I'm like, oh, that doesn't seem as fucking dumb now, but it's still dumb because Batman armor shouldn't have nipples. But I digress. So this goes on to something Adam mentioned earlier about Sam having a poster on his wall of a handsome man. Well, that handsome man was Rob Lowe. And on the DVD commentary, Joel Schumacher says it was there because before he did Lost Boys, he directed St. Elmo's Fire that also had Rob Lowe in it. So it had nothing to do with gay.
Okay.
It's a little nod. This movie invented the phrase "vamp out," which passed into common usage on the TV series Buffy the Vampire, which, in my opinion, completely ripped this movie off because Spike is basically
David.
And
100%.
I don't know how many times I got called fucking Spike at HellCon. I was pissed.
That's great.
In Max's video store, you can see a single copy of The Goonies, which also starred Corey Feldman. Gerald McMahon, who wrote the theme song "Cry Little Sister" to the movie, so this movie, that song was written for this movie, wrote it without seeing a single frame of film. He literally just read the script and he was like, "Yep, this is the song that's going to go with this," and it's fucking awesome.
Talent.
In the cave of the Lost Boys, you can see a poster of Jim Morrison, which is a nod to the "People Are Strange" song that was used in the movie that was recorded by the Doors. But the song is actually covered by Echo and the Bunnymen for this movie, and there's a poster of them on the wall as well in Sam's bedroom. Corey Haim also characterized his experience on this shoot as one of the greatest personal times in his life. The Frog Brothers, Edgar and Allan, are obviously a reference to Edgar Allan Poe. According to the writers, the character's name, Lucy, was chosen because of Lucy from Bram Stoker's Dracula.
Okay.
Excellent.
The characters in this movie say Michael approximately 118 times.
Sutherland does say it an awful lot.
Yeah. Kiefer Sutherland's role as David, being one of the lead cast members, had the fewest lines amongst all leading and supporting cast members in this movie. At the same time, he had the most dialogue amongst the four vampire Lost Boys.
And 50% of his dialogue was the word Michael.
Yeah. Originally, Jim Carrey was considered for the role of David because he previously portrayed a vampire in the movie Once Bitten from 1985.
I don't know how I feel about that.
I don't have any feeling about that because that would have been awful.
Gary Busey could have pulled it off.
Yep.
Adam.
I'm hanging my head in shame for this conversation.
Originally, Fred Gwynn was considered as the part of Max.
I'm cool with that.
I would have been cool with that.
It would have been cool as the grandfather, too. Sometimes dead is better. Tim catches on afterwards.
Apparently, Ben Stiller auditioned for a part in this movie.
And the world's a better place. And the world's a better place because he didn't get it?
Corey Feldman and Kiefer Sutherland became close friends because they were both in Stand By Me the previous year, and then did this movie, and they still keep in touch.
Nice. Wow. There's so much trivia for this movie.
Oh, it's going on. It's going on.
Nice.
Oh, okay. So this is interesting. David's impaled on a pair of antlers and doesn't disintegrate like the other vampires. Despite what Max later says, he's not really dead. This was intended to be picked up in the sequel, The Lost Girls, which was scripted but never made. And then they made a comic book miniseries called Lost Boys: Reign of the Frogs, which helps bridge the 20-year gap between the films. It's implied that David not only survived the impaling, but went on to create Shane, the head vampire from Lost Boys: The Tribe.
That's good, because antlers aren't wood.
No. Even though Star is a half vampire, we never see her be a vampire in the movie.
Yes.
Okay.
Funny enough, it also, while you're reading into that, Star, Jamie Gertz. So I remember sitting back and watching this movie, obviously recently when we were getting ready for this, and I'm going, I recognize her for something else, very prominent. And then it clued in, Twister. Bill's future wife or his fiance, and this the annoying doctor.
That's
I was
right.
like, oh my gosh, it is her.
Never seen it.
What? Never seen Twister?
The fuck? I thought that like everybody's seen Twister. That's just like that movie that everybody's like Titanic.
Jurassic Park or something. Yeah, it's like it's
Okay.
good. It still kind of holds up a bit.
Yeah, it's not a bad movie.
Wind
Okay.
doesn't scare me.
Twisters would.
Okay, so that's it.
Okay,
That's
fine.
Trivia time with Tim.
Trivia time with Tim. So, moving on, gentlemen, we are going to wrap this up with our final thoughts and give our final score for the movie. So, I'm going to start tonight with Mr. Johnson.
Me?
Yeah,
Me? I get to go
Yeah.
first?
you do.
Oh, that's mighty awesome of you. I fucking love this movie. I've loved this movie since 1987. It was one of the first movies. Well, maybe not 87 because you had to wait for it to come out in video. So maybe 88. I remember this was one of the rentals that I got on VHS back in the day when I got to pick. I loved it. I loved the soundtrack. I loved Kiefer Sutherland. Like, I loved this movie. I watched this movie every year. Usually, it's not really an October movie. I'll watch it whenever, but I watch it like every year, at least once every year. There's not a lot of fucking special effects in it, so you don't really have to worry about it holding up because it does, but there's not a lot. I thought the acting was great. I thought the story was pretty basic, and it didn't need to be any more than that. Yeah, I give this a fucking R. R. Like a
Nice.
pirate. R.
Arr.
No, hard R. Love this movie.
Hard R. Josh.
Yeah. Again, a lot of
Yeah.
the same sentiments. Love this movie. It's one of the ones that I grew up with. It was probably my first introduction to vampire movies. I love that it has the establishment of the rules with the Frog Brothers. It has probably the greatest horror soundtrack. I can't think of any movie that when I hear these songs, when I hear a song from it, I think more about that film than when I hear these songs from Lost Boys. You got the Coreys at their peak of their high performance. You got the establishment of the two Coreys. This movie is great. Very minimal effects again, like we said. The humor is on point, and you have one of the best lines in horror ever uttered, all these goddamn vampires. Again, I got to go with an R as well. I was almost tempted to put an X on this, but there is one vampire movie I like more that I savor my X for. So
I didn't go full X because I wasn't happy with what happened with David.
yeah, And
That
it
was
does
the
have that
only reason.
bullshit happy ending that they love to give on.
But it wasn't really a happy ending.
Everyone survived.
Yeah, but
And Grandpa got his root beer. If he would have opened the fridge and saw the root beers were all smashed,
yeah, that
he
would
would have
been
been like,
hilarious.
"God damn!"
Grandpa got
vampire."
something else too, but you know.
Right. And he banged
Widow Johnson.
It's all about the root beer.
Yeah. Aaron.
Well, from an effects point of view, I think it was a very tight film for effects. I think they didn't get overwhelmed with it. They spent their time. They did all the proper head casting and the blending out. Obviously, it's professionals that were working on this. So everything, as far as I'm concerned, being a 1980s film, which I fucking love, right? I slot this in with the Goonies and Monster Squad and all the greats, right? So it's definitely not going to get a low mark from me. The effects I think are solid. I usually try and pick things apart. Don't mean to at times, but yeah, I mean, what's not a good ending? You guys are kind of talking about not being sorry, not a good ending, but not a happy ending or whatever. But what's not to be happy about? You're living right on the California coast, right, in a little town. You go out and surf and do whatever. So that's my take on that. As far as story, I love the story, love the writing. Yeah, I just think everything from casting and locations is just right on par. Right, it's perfect. I think they did as a movie unit coming together and building this whole thing in the limited amount of time that they did. Absolutely fantastic. So I'm going to give it an R myself.
Sweet. Excellent. I share the sentiments. This movie is beautiful. It's great vampire. You can see that this movie influenced a lot that came after it, and we talked about this quite a bit in the show. Once again, this is the original Buffy type vampire, right? So there's a lot of influence that went out later on. So when you look at vampires, you have everything from the original Dracula to the Nosferatu, very simplistic. And then you get into things like Fright Night, where it was more demonic, but this kept it very simple and clean. It was an homage and an ode to the classics of the vampires, but gave you a different twist. And it became something that was just visibly beautiful, the way that they pulled it off. And once again, that kind of influenced the way that things move forward with vampires. It was simple and it was elegant, and it put it forward in that way. The acting's great in this movie. It's great to see 80s icons like, Alex Winter and obviously the Coreys and everybody else in this movie.
Kiefer Sutherland.
Yes, the soundtrack is amazing. And, right down to the fact that even today, after hearing Marilyn Manson redo Cry Little Sister, you know what I mean? The song is still hauntingly beautiful, even when it's been redone by Marilyn Manson and everything else. The song's incredible. I'll never forget, after having not seen this movie for a few years, not like that this was the first time in a few years, but I remember before having a lull and then turning it on, and just the opening scene with Cry Little Sister playing, and it's just like you sitting there just in amazement of this movie. So the movie itself all around is absolute spectacle of the 80s and everything that you want out of an 80s horror movie without going absolutely overboard. It does not go, too much into anything. It's perfect. It's a less is more.
Cheese factor is pretty low. There's a pretty low cheese factor.
Pretty low cheese factor. And this movie is a lot of, once again, less is more. It's story driven, even though the basic premise was just that there's vampires. But it's a coming of age vampires finding yourself movie. It is beautiful the way that they made it. So I'm gonna give this movie a hard R as well.
4 R's.
4 R's.
I think there were some very close X's in this as well. But...
Yeah. Like I said, if David would have died a different way, it would have been an X. X.
All right.
X gonna give it to you.
X gonna give it to you. So that's beautiful. So thank you very much, everybody. We're going to turn it in for the night. So thank you very much, everybody, for tuning in and checking out the episode. Remember to take a look at our YouTube channel. like and subscribe and share. Check us out on Facebook, Misunderstood Art Company. Like and subscribe and share it all out. We go live on Monday nights for our live roundtable, plus we release every week a recorded episode such as this. We're on all the major podcasting platforms, Spotify, iTunes, and Google Play, etc. And we're also on Patreon, by the way. So open up your hearts and your wallets and join the Patreon group today with us. And, just check us out. Thank you very much again. So until next time, Aaron.
Oh, I've got another one for you. I got another short poem, possibly. I shot an arrow into the sky. It hit a poor cloud that was floating by. The cloud fell dying to the shore. I don't shoot arrows anymore. Another one by Shel Silverstein.
Nice. Nicely done. Tim?
So you're still processing that, huh?
Still processing it.
Visualizing the whole arrow and the poor cloud, right?
I am. It's great. It's great.
Vegan. I'm not a vegan.
Tim.
Stay spooky. Quarantine is temporary. Wu-Tang is forever.
Wu-Tang! Josh.
These last few episodes have been really good, except for all the goddamn vampires.
Nicely done. Excellent. Thanks again, everybody. See you next time.
Good night.
Thank you.